This is Alfred with Black Dice Gaming. So, we're going to talk a little bit about creating a character. The character creation process should be easy, should be easily done, and should be able to be done by anybody in general. So DMs, I have noticed that in certain games that I've seen, that some DMs take a long time with their players to create a character, and that's fine, but it leaves the players saying, well, we came to play. Players, same way. It is your job to let the DM know what you want. So today we're going to explain a little bit on how to create a character, and we're going to try to go through this as fast as possible so you can see how easy it is to create any character in Dungeons & Dragons. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you want to do is build a concept for your character. A lot of people go ahead and grab dice and start rolling, and that's great, but the whole idea is you got to know what your character was. Your character wasn't always an adventurer. He wasn't always a fighter or a thief or a barbarian. He was something else. Maybe he was a hermit that traveled the lands. Maybe he was someone who got a significant loss and is struggling with that defeat. These things are what makes your character who he or she is. And in the player's guide, there's a lot of good examples that are found in the background section, which is in pages 125 to 141. So those are actually really good. They give you certain proficiencies, they give you certain skills, and they also explain a little bit about features to be able to give your character a smaller edge, not much, but it was something your character did beforehand. So you play a thief. Maybe you take the urchin background. Now you have city secrets. So your thief knows how cities work. Maybe he may be in a new city, but he still knows roundabout how cities work and how things move. So by doing that, his movement speed is double. And I think it basically plays off that whole, kid thief that grabs something and the cops are trying to run after him. He's going through the streets, and people are bringing boards around, and he slides underneath the board, does like some parkour stuff, a few little flippy flippies, and he's gone. And the cops are sitting there going, well, where was he? So these are things you want to think about. Concept is key. Your character lived before you grabbed the dice. So now we're ready to grab dice. The whole idea is 4d6s. Now on the 4d6s, you're going to roll them, and in the player's handbook, it has 3 different ways to do it. The first way that they mentioned, which is my favorite method, is actually rolling dice. You roll 4d6s, you remove the smallest, you add the result. That can make a score of anywhere from 3 to 18. That's a huge margin. Now in my case, I will go into what I do personally. My home rules is you roll 4d6s, you re-roll all ones, and then you remove the smallest. By doing that, it doesn't change much. All it does, it changes that low number of 3 to a lowest number of 6. It's really not that hard. And it gives a little bit of chances for maybe a little bit more power, but if you're only rolling 1d1 and it changes to a 2, you really haven't changed much, guys. So take that into aspect. If you want to try that in your games, DMs, please feel free. It's great. The second one is the standard array. Now the standard array in the player's handbook basically explains, it gives you a set number. And these set numbers are to be put in the 6 spots. strength, dexterity, con, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. So just so you know what these things do, let's take the object of a tomato. Strength is your ability to crush the tomato. Dexterity is your ability to throw the tomato. Con is your ability to eat a rotten tomato. Intelligence is your ability to know that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is your ability to know that the tomato does not belong in a fruit salad. And charisma means you can sell a tomato in a fruit salad. It's called salsa. So these are the things you want to put into aspect in knowing what your character can do. So the numbers that they give you is they give you 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. This is really good because it gives your characters a lot of strengths. It gives your characters a few averages. It also gives your character one fault because nobody's perfect. I may not be a great runner and jumper, but I may be smarter in other things than maybe the common rogue would be. It's fine. So take your time, decide what you want to do with those numbers, but don't put them down yet. So a lot of people will call it power gaming, but we'll explain that in a future. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and start with the third one. So the third one is point buy. Now, in point buy, you get 27 points. And the 27 points are spread throughout to be able to create your character. These points have a certain cost to be able to go anywhere from 8 to 15. Now, I'm not a big fan of it. I've tried it. It leads to a lot of min-maxing. So in my case, I don't really like it too much, but DMs take a look at it. The standard array and the point buy system are in the player's handbook at page 13. So now you have your numbers. They're not down yet on those 6 boxes, but that's fine because now you need to discover what race and class you want to play. My suggestion, a lot of people go the opposite route and it takes a lot longer. My suggestion is figure out what class you want because race is not really as important as what you do. It's not what you look like more than what you do. So if you're playing a rogue, dexterity is a big thing. Find a race that has good dexterity. Now sure, you don't have to. I mean, you can literally play anything. That's the great joy of Dungeons and Dragons. So take your time. Pick your race, pick your class. Today, when we're talking about these things, you may notice I mentioned the player's handbook. We will actually be talking about 2 books. These are the books that you will be seeing commonly as a player. And DMs, my suggestion is at least let your players know Player's Handbook and Xanathar's Guide to Everything is really all they need to be able to create a powerful and a good character. So when you pick your class, don't just pick a class that works with race, but make it work with your concept. Obviously, if you're an acolyte, you're not going to be a thief. Maybe you are. We'll see what happens from there. There's actually a background in, I think it's Tomb of Annihilation, where person plays, where the background's archaeologist. Great, I will play a rogue. Now, I have Indiana Jones. So awesome. So take your time. Think about what your character is and what made him who he is and where he is going now. Now that you have your class, your race, now it's time to put those points down. Because those points that you rolled are going to be beneficial or detrimental. So you want to take a look and see what racial features, what racial traits you get for whatever you're playing. And just so you know, guys, in the future I will be talking about races and I will be explaining a little bit, but for right now we're just going to go down and dirty. We're just going to get this done a little faster, okay? So find out the racial abilities, find out what racial abilities fit with the class, and then mate them perfectly. You want to be able to take your highest points and put them where it's needed to go. That way your character can do what it needs to do. Sure, everybody says, well, I want my character to be like this. That's why concept's the most important part. You want to know what your character is beforehand. But in the end, you want to create a character that is competent, that can actually do something. Because if he's useless, why is he even with the party? So you want to make sure that you're doing that, okay, guys? Next thing is, and I'd say that even though here is another time you should do it, you should also do it in the beginning, talk with your DM. Exceptions. You know, what doesn't your DM want? Maybe your DM is running a campaign that doesn't have magic. Maybe your DM is running a campaign that has no religion. Whatever it is, you want to know this from your DM, because you do not want to create a character that obviously is going to be no fun for you to play. If there is no magic in the world, why are you a wizard? Now, I did hear about some great ideas, and that some ideas that I'm actually planning to use myself because of the fact that I never thought about them before, is the land without magic. So everybody has no magic, but yet you have magic. It's not that magic doesn't exist, it's magic is hated. Magic is hunted. You now have hunters and inquisitors coming after you, burning people at the stake. I thought that when I heard that, that was the most amazing thing I've ever heard. And guys, DMs, if you like that, please try it too. I mean, I'm looking forward to trying it myself. So give it time. Take your time to figure out where you want that to be. So not just choosing a race that complements your class, not just all those things, but you want to take a look at every race and class. Don't just look at the first one and go, that's what I want to do, because then you're going to be a barbarian. You know, take your time. One of the things that I did notice, and people have mentioned it, I'd say it's maybe about 80% of the people who do know, so you guys, most of you already know, is about the variant human. So when you look at the human in Player's Handbook, it has all the stats are, all the abilities are increased by 1, and that shows the human's side of, you know, they adventure a lot, they move a lot, they deal with a lot of different races, so obviously they're jacks of all trades. But there's a variant in there. If you look a little lower on the right hand side, I think it's like on the second page over, you will see a variant human. And instead of getting all your abilities increased by 1, now you have only 2. But it's your choice, but you have 2 that are increased by 1. You gain 1 proficiency and 1 skill that doesn't involve anything else. This is just for that, just for being a human. And you get a feat. The feats are fantastic. Now, you can find the feats in the Player's Handbook at page 165 through 170. And in Xanathar's Guide for Everything, there are some racial feats you can find that in 73 to 75. But if you're playing another race, there's not really very many feats until you go towards higher levels. We will also talk about that later in other installments. The only racial feat that appears in Xanathar's Guide for Everything that the variant human can pick up is the Prodigy feat. So take a look at that. I actually thought it was rather cool. It gives a little bit extra. It's not too overpowered. Check it out. I think you will like it. So after you've done that, now you have your abilities, you have your concept, you have your race and class. Now what do we do? Well, There's also little things you need to fill out to basically give a little bit more information. That is your name, your alignment, your age, height, size, gender, weight, hair and skin color, eye color, those little things to basically round out your character. So those are things that you want to look at as well, because it's who you are. It's what you look like. It's the way you're going to describe your character. If you walk up to a game and you go, I'm an elf, I'm wearing armor, people are going to look at you like, well, what kind of elf? But if you say, I am a sun elf, I have tan skin, I smell of the desert sands, I have beautiful blue eyes and flowing brown hair, you know, little things like that. Or I am a drow, beautiful obsidian, shining black skin, beautiful pale purple eyes, and a shock of white hair that sends a great contrast to the way my armor fits on my body. Little things like that to describe what your character is, more than, hi, my name's Earl, I'm a human. So those are the things you want to think about. And one thing that I did forget to mention, and if you really have trouble with concept, with age, with weight, and things like that, understand that on every race, it gives you like the average. So it tells you, okay, well, normally humans live to be about 80 to 100. You know, this is when they turn into adulthood. Just so you know, when you turn into adult, that's when you adventure. So obviously, that's what you're trying to do. But in Xanathar's Guide for Everything, in page 61 to 73, they have something called It's Your Life. You literally roll random on everything. Do you know your parents? What's your parents' names? Are they alive? Do you have family? What horrible things happened to you before you became an adventurer or before you even met the group? Amazing. I think it's funny because the rolling is great. You never know what you're going to get. And as a person who's made characters, it's nice to have the die roll basically give me something to have to come up with. It's like, oh, well, I'm a rogue that now has a family of 12 children. I have to change things now, because that's an interesting thought. So it's like, okay, he more cares about his family. So those little tidbits help with creating your character. So notice we haven't gone 4 hours yet, and we're not. So after that, you want to fill in your proficiency bonuses, initiative. You want to determine your AC, and that means by, you know, whatever armor you get. Now understand that unarmored defense, whether it be from a monk, a barbarian, or even the Tortle's natural armor, you can only choose one of them. So pick carefully, choose carefully, and have fun with that. Once your AC is down, go grab some weapons and let's go ahead and party. Now, everybody else has their characters, but magic users, now it's your turn. After you've done all that, now it's your turn to look at spells. Now guys, I'm going to be talking about different classes, and I will eventually explain about the spells. But for right now, I will tell you that there are spells in both the Player's Handbook and Xanathar's Guide for Everything. The spells for the Player's Handbook can be found in page 207 and 289. And in Xanathar's Guide for Everything, you can find it on page 147 to 171. And guys, stay tuned. We will actually be doing other classes next. Then we'll talk about races, and then we'll talk about a few good character concepts to round out your character in the future. So stay tuned to these installments. They will be very helpful to you guys in the future. New gamers, welcome. It's very important to have new gamers because without you guys, this game goes away. So please enjoy the game. Feel free to enjoy the heart and soul of it. DMs, we pour a lot into what we do. So please keep those players active, happy, and excited. And my suggestion to players is if you do not have a player's handbook and you do not have a Xanathar's guide for everything, it's time to do so. It's very important because DM can't share his books with you all the time. Also, in the future, I know I've mentioned it in a past video. If you haven't seen the video about things that are coming from Wizards of the Coast, please feel free to go back to that so you can take a look. But there is a new book coming out, and if I'm correct, it's called Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It's basically going to be another installment, just like Xanathar's Guide. Players, if that does come out, or if that is out by the time you see this video, also grab that because there's a lot of useful information in there. And guys, thank you so much for coming to see us. If you ever have any questions, concerns, comments, please feel free to leave it in the comments section. We will try our best to get to them. We also have a Patreon, and our Patreon is actually connected to a Discord site. So if you do decide to join the Patreon, you will actually be invited to Discord with us, and you will even be able to ask us questions. I still take a look at the Discord, and you know, I'm always willing to be there and answer questions whenever possible. I'm pretty sure that Tony does the same thing. And so please look at our Patreon, see what works for you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. We can't do this without you. We never can, and we never will. We don't grow separately as players. We all grow together. So come back and see us. Happy trails.